Well, the fallout from the FTX collapse continues, with crypto lender BlockFi filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection yesterday. As we take a look here, we can see that a Senate hearing looking into the spectacular failure of FTX is slated for Thursday. It'll be followed by one in the House on December 13th. And it comes as a raft of questions remain unanswered over how such a downfall could occur. Well, we're happy to be joined by Representative Ed Perlmutter from Colorado's 7th Congressional District. He sits on the House Financial Services Committee and is chair of the Consumer Protection and Financial Institutions Subcommittee. Thank you for joining us today. I want to first start by getting your take on FTX. A lot of people were wondering, was there anything in terms of existing laws on the books that could have prevented what we saw with FTX?
Well, there are plenty of laws on the books, but as crypto gained momentum over the years, FTX and other companies were always sort of basing their projections on crypto, Bitcoin, all increasing. And the minute that the Fed started raising interest rates and people started questioning the value of the crypto they had, when it started dropping, dominoes started falling, and FTX and BlockFi now are just the latest dominoes to fall. But we've had a whole bunch over the last 9 months.
Let me ask the question more directly, though, because there's certainly a lot of fingers that have been pointed at lawmakers to say, well, because lawmakers as well as regulators were so slow to act in the U.S., that pushed a lot of the activity offshore. So did the inaction by lawmakers contribute to the collapse that we've seen in crypto?
No, I think, Akiko, I was a bankruptcy lawyer for a very long time before I got elected to Congress. And, this was a house of cards. And whether it was in the United States or elsewhere, if it's a house of cards and you're getting money from investors based on based on everything that keeps going up, and then when it stops going up, all of a sudden the house of cards falls apart. And, I know there are a lot of crypto adherents, a lot of supporters, but the underlying technology, the blockchain technology, is very valuable. But some of these cryptocurrencies and coins and things like that, you just change one little algorithm, numeral, and you got a whole new coin. So, no, I think that we've got plenty of laws on the books about investments and fraud and Ponzi schemes, and that's what it is.
There's plenty of bills that have been put forward around regulation. Some would argue that Sam Bankman-Fried had a big hand in it. Given that he was a constant presence on Capitol Hill, he did contribute to Democratic lawmakers as well as some Republican ones, too. So when you think about what has been laid out before, does this set you back at zero, given that some of these bills were favorable to FTX, or is this something that's already been on the book that you think you can work with to prevent something like this in the future?
Well, that's a good question. I think that there are plenty of laws on the books to deal with, investments where, it was based on just everything's going up, not the real risk of it all falling apart. And so I think there's laws, from the Securities Act of 1934, various investment acts, as well as just basic common law of, deceiving people and, taking some money and commingling it with other money. And that's what we seem to see happening here. So there's a lot of laws on the books. Now, whether there was something that could have been done to stop this earlier, that's a good question. But you could, I guess from my background as a bankruptcy lawyer out of Denver, Colorado, where we saw this kind of stuff in the 80s and the 90s, with penny stocks and some other things, it's not surprising. I wish it didn't happen. A lot of people are going to get hurt. But, the problem is that everything was bet on crypto increasing in value. And the minute those rates changed, everybody, whether it's real estate or everything else, starts dropping. And then, it's musical chairs and who can get out the fastest.
And I want to ask you now about another sector, which is marijuana and the Safe Banking Act. You're going to be retiring. What are your expectations for what you could potentially get done before you leave, and where the holdup is, where the sticking points still are?
Well, Rachelle, I'm glad you're asking the question, not Akiko, because she's asked me that before, and I'm the eternal optimist. But I'm also a realist. Akiko, I've become a realist in this. And the optimist says we're going to get it done. There are several ways we can do it through the National Defense Authorization Act, through a standalone bill that's sitting over in the Senate, or through one of the funding bills, the various appropriations bills we have. But the realist in me says I've been disappointed before, and the industry's been disappointed before because it's gotten stuck in the Senate and time is short. But I think given the activity in the Senate that we've seen over the course of the last month, both out of the banking committee as well as out of the majority leader's office, I think something's going to happen, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that it does, at least on the House side.
Yeah, Congressman, I was counting how many times it has passed the House earlier. How many times you've been behind that? How many times we've had you on? 7 times it has passed before. As you point out, there's the financial services element of it, but then the criminal justice reform too. I mean, can you bring those two together before you depart D.C.?
I think so. So some of the senators have wanted to see additional criminal justice equity reforms. And I think there is a way to what we called Safe Banking Plus. And that would have some expungement of records for minor infractions, for low-level violations, coupled with some work with the Veterans Administration, maybe a pilot program dealing with PTSD, some research components. So there are a way to fashion this that I think keeps Republicans in the Senate. We need 10 at least, I think, to pass it out of the Senate with the Democrats and move it back to the House, where I know we could pass it and send it on to President Biden.
Okay, well, we'll be watching very closely. We'll have to have you back on one last time if it does in fact pass.
Have me back on when we pass this darn thing, and then my optimism will, have come to fruition. We'll see.
Okay, it's always good to have you on, Representative Ed Perlmutter from Colorado's 7th Congressional District.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.